Welcome to the Mixed Race Belonging Podcast, where we explore the intersection of mixed identity and belonging through the lens of somatics and personal and collective liberation to help you heal your belonging wounds and build relationships where you can show up as your full-ass self. I'm your host, Raina LaGrand, an embodiment coach for mixed race people with a background as a trauma therapist, yoga teacher, and health educator. The tools and insights I share with you here are the approach that has not only helped me heal my belonging wound, but also helped me help my mixed race clients do the same. We all need something good to belong to right now. Relationships and spaces where we feel safe, held, seen, heard, and dignified. Thanks for being here, and let's get started with today's show. Hey y'all, welcome back to the podcast. Ooh, I forgot my intro music. Intro music. So last episode, I talked a bit about the number one issue that my clients face as mixed race people, which is rejection sensitivity, and just kind of how I support them in that experience, and just sort of some like high level encouragement and like hyping you up. But I wanted to come back this episode and share with you some really tangible tips for dealing with rejection and criticism as a mixed race person, because every mixed race person has been the very unfortunate recipient of rejection and criticism related to their identity. And I'm sorry to tell you, you're probably going to experience a bit more of it because we live in a racist world. And just want you to know, like, if you have absolutely crumbled in response to such a comment, or maybe you're on the other end of the spectrum and you've completely lashed out, you are not alone. You are not alone. That is so understandable to have that kind of response. So here are some of my top tips for coping in those moments when you feel like nobody understands me, I don't belong anywhere. Okay, firstly, I want you to honor your pain. You are not a superhuman, and you don't need to be. You are allowed to have feelings about these things. You are allowed to feel sad, dejected, rageful, resentful, and whatever else comes up. And so my number one tip is really to create practices or rituals around how you respond to yourself when these kind of situations come up. So not how you respond to the other person, how you respond to yourself. So that might look like identifying affirmations that lift you up. That might be giving yourself time to cry. It might be journaling about your experience, really maybe even free writing what you want to say to that person. It might be calling a friend, or just really whatever else soothes you or fills you up. So for me, like swimming is a big thing that really soothes me. Dancing is something that's really reinvigorating for me. You know, being with our pain doesn't always mean that we are sitting around and crying, though crying is great. It can also be what gives you life that you want to tap into. All right, so next tip is more focused on how do you respond to the other person. In the heat of the moment, it makes complete sense to me that you would go blank or pop off, right, on someone else. So it can be really helpful to draft out language about your identity and your experience in advance so that you can more easily recall it in the moment. It's also helpful to practice stating these boundaries so that you can repeat them in those situations. So some examples might be, I understand how you feel, but that's not my experience. I'm both Black and white. I refuse to deny myself either aspect of my heritage. Why does it hurt you if I claim my Chinese ancestry? I understand I have light skin privilege, but that doesn't negate my Mexican heritage. I can see that you have no interest in understanding my perspective, and I'm not going to continue this conversation with you. Right? So those are all different ways that you can potentially respond. So make a list of how you would respond, or maybe you even have to just start out by making that list after the fact, and then you'll be more prepared next time, right? And actually, I want to go back to my first tip where I was talking about how you respond to yourself around honoring your pain, because I think I said something really helpful here, which is you have to, kind of be prepared so that you can respond in the moment. And I would say the same about the internal process for yourself. When you practice skills for soothing yourself, validating yourself, you want to practice those when it's not the heat of the moment, because then it's going to be easier to do when shit really hits the fan. So making sure you're taking care of yourself, practicing compassion for yourself, which I could do a whole episode on that, is going to help you when something goes down and you need to center yourself quickly. All right, so my next tip is for you to remember the context that we live in. We live in a racist and segregated society by design. By design. And so as a result, it's really common for other people to live in an us versus them mentality, right? I'm going to do a whole episode on the origins of the belonging wound someday, but basically I'll just say, like, we already live in a culture where most of us, like, belonging is conditional. It's conditional. It's reliant on showing up in a certain way, adopting certain standards, including like that us versus them mentality, right? Because often I think that people are unkind to us because they are protecting their own fragile sense of belonging. It feels like to them, if they criticize our light skin or the way we talk, or they minimize the microaggressions that we've experienced, that they are maintaining their place of their belonging in whatever kind of, setup it is that their belonging exists in. And I know that might make you feel really angry. It makes me angry. I have a lot of like grief and sadness actually about that we live in a world where we are all struggling to survive white supremacy. So just holding that space for you in that. And I think actually, I don't expect you to be here yet, but knowing that that's the lived experience of the people who have criticized me, that actually helps me to soften a little bit, because I just know that they're hurting, whether they admit it or not. Like, they are hurting to the point where they have to hurt us. And I've experienced some weird shit. I remember once I was in a group of all Black students that I worked extensively with in college, and I thought I had something on my face, and I said, "Oh, is there something on my face?" And somebody said to me, "Girl, your skin is so light. If there was something on your face, we would know." Which was so random and weird to say. Like, that's such a weird thing to say, right? And so I knew for her, my presence threatened some sort of solid sense of like belonging that maybe she was trying to protect as a Black person in that space. And I both have a lot of anger towards her and a lot of compassion too, because I get it. There are so many ways that our communities, whether folks are white or whether people are BIPOC, where it feels like we have to protect this community, we have to protect the belongingness of this community. I get it, So those are a few tips for you. Honor your pain, and also like practice your skills, develop language about your experience, and really remember that we live in this context that when things like this happen, it is not about you at all. I know this is a lot to manage on your own, and having spaces and relationships where you don't have to defend yourself is really important. Having spaces where you can process these things and strategize. So if you want support processing your feelings about these experiences, practicing your boundaries, whatever, I can help. We can do this in one-on-one coaching, and I am accepting new clients right now. So make sure you head to the show notes and my website, and you can set up a free 60-minute sales call where I'm just gonna be able to talk with you about everything you've experienced and share what working together could look like. And I look forward to seeing your name pop up on my calendar. Big hugs to you. Take care.